Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into a tough but important topic, victims and victimization.
It's a complex area, definitely.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of source material to draw on. We want to understand the scale, the costs, both money and, personal, and the theories behind why certain people become targets.
And the scale. Well, you have to start there. It's just massive. Our sources, especially looking at things like the National Crime Victimization Survey, the NCVS,
Right.
they estimate something like 20 million theft and violence victimizations every single year in the U.S. alone.
20 million. Wow. Okay, so that number really sets the stage.
It absolutely does.
So our mission today, let's break it down first. What's the actual toll? Financially, psychologically, all of it. Second, who is most vulnerable? What characteristics pop up again and again in the data?
Yeah, the patterns.
Exactly. And finally, how do criminologists explain these patterns? What are the main theories? And importantly, how has the system responded to try and protect victims?
Okay, starting with that toll. It's heavy. And it's not just a one-time hit.
No, it ripples outwards, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Economically, think property loss, lost work time. The sources put that in the hundreds of billions of dollars annually.
Hundreds of billions. That's staggering.
And that's before you even get to the individual level lost earnings, maybe losing a job or missing promotions because of what happened.
Yeah, the economic side is huge, but the personal cost.
Yeah,
That's where it really hits home, I think.
definitely. Beyond the money, you've got the emotional trauma, the psychological impact. We're talking about general suffering, stress, a constant fear sometimes.
In serious conditions too, right? Like PTSD.
Yes, post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a major risk. And it shows up as depression, anxiety, sometimes self-destructive behaviors. It can really derail someone's life.
It affects everything. It impacts kids, relationships.
For sure, adolescent stress, relationship stress.
Yeah.
The fallout is widespread.
And that connects directly to this idea, the cycle of violence, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It shows how individual suffering becomes a bigger societal problem.
Yeah, the sources really detail this.
Yeah.
Kids, boys, and girls, both if they were abused or saw violence at home or lived around weapons, they're significantly more likely to become violent themselves later on.
It's that tragic link. Yesterday's victim potentially becoming tomorrow's offender. It shows the long-term cost to society.
Okay, so if these are the costs, let's look at the patterns. You mentioned the social ecology, time, place.
Right. Where and when does victimization happen most often? The data points to certain vulnerabilities. For instance, statistically, homes in urban areas, homes in the western states, and homes occupied by African Americans face a higher risk of crime.
And schools, too. I remember seeing that.
Yes, schools emerge as high-risk environments, often because they concentrate a population of, well, high-risk juvenile males.
Okay, let's drill down into victim characteristics, because some of this challenges common assumptions, I think.
It really does. Take gender. Generally speaking, males are more likely to be victims of overall violent crime.
Except for rape and sexual assault, obviously.
Exactly. That's the major exception. But here's the really crucial nuance.
What's that?
It's about the relationship between the victim and the offender. Females are far more often victimized by someone they know. An intimate partner, a family member, an acquaintance.
Whereas for males,
Males are more often victimized by strangers.
that's a huge difference. It suggests, what, that risk for men is often more external, public.
Yeah, you could say that. While for women, statistically, the danger is often closer to home. Familiar.
Okay. What about age?
Another clear pattern, younger people generally face a higher risk than older people.
But older people aren't immune.
Not at all. And elder abuse victims face a specific kind of threat. They're particularly vulnerable to frauds and scams. It's a narrower band of crime, but very damaging.
And social status, how does that play out?
It creates an interesting split. The sources show the poorest Americans are actually the most likely victims of both violent crime and property crime.
So poverty increases risk of violence and theft of property.
Right. Whereas the wealthy, they're more likely to experience personal theft, things like pickpocketing, maybe identity theft, different kinds of vulnerability.
Fascinating. Any other key demographics?
Marital status matters. Never married individuals have the highest risk.
Really? Higher than divorced or separated?
Yep, highest overall. And widows and widowers, they have the lowest risk.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And race.
Race and ethnicity. African Americans are more likely than white individuals to be victims of violent crime. It is important to note, though, that serious violent crime rates have actually decreased for both groups in recent years.
Okay, good to know there's been some decline there.
Yeah.
So all these patterns, age, gender, status, location, they contribute to this really troubling finding about repeat victimization, right?
Exactly. If you've been a victim once, your chances of it happening again go up significantly.
Why is that?
Well, researchers point to three main factors that seem to predict this chronic or repeat victimization. The first is target vulnerability. This is basically a perception by the offender that the target is weak, either physically or psychologically, making them an easy mark.
Makes sense. Easy target.
The second is target gratifiability. This means the victim has something the offender wants: money, property, maybe something less tangible.
Okay, vulnerability and having something desirable. What's the third?
The third one is, well, it's the most controversial. It's called target antagonism.
Antagonism. What does that mean?
It suggests that something about the victim's behavior, maybe arguing, maybe displaying something valuable carelessly, maybe even their lifestyle, unintentionally provokes or antagonizes the offender.
That sounds like it could easily slip into victim-blaming territory.
It absolutely does, and that's the major criticism and sensitivity around it. The research aims to understand dynamics, not assign blame, but the line is very fine.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, and before we move to the big theories, just quickly, what do the sources say about the offenders themselves?
A few key things. Most crime is intraracial, meaning offender and victim are usually the same race.
Okay.
Most crimes are committed by a single person, usually over the age of 20. Substance abuse pops up, often involved in about a third of violent crimes.
Right.
But here's the statistic that really stands out, I think. More than 60% of violent crimes are committed by relatives or acquaintances.
60%. Not strangers.
Not strangers. It underlines that point about risk often being close, relational, not just random attacks.
Okay, that's a sobering statistic. So with all these patterns and costs laid out, how do experts try to explain why? What are the theoretical models?
Right, the why question. Criminologists have developed several models. One of the oldest and maybe most debated is victim precipitation theory.
Precipitation, like rain.
Sort of. It means the idea that the victim in some way might initiate the event that leads to their harm.
How?
It's broken down into active precipitation, maybe the victim attacks first or uses really provocative language, and passive precipitation. This is where the victim has some characteristic, maybe a personality trait, maybe a disability that unknowingly triggers the offender.
Okay, I have to jump in here. Active precipitation. Okay, maybe I can see the dynamic in a fight. But passive, suggesting someone's personality provokes an attack. Doesn't that just sound like blaming them for who they are?
That is exactly the criticism and why it's so controversial, especially the passive part. The theory tries to analyze the interaction, not excuse the offender. But yeah, the language and the implication are definitely problematic for many people. It's more about risk factor analysis in specific crime types, like assault.
Okay, understood. It's a difficult concept. What's next?
Perhaps less controversial one is lifestyle theory.
Lifestyle. Sounds more straightforward.
It is, generally. It basically says your risk goes up if your lifestyle routinely exposes you to potential offenders.
Makes intuitive sense, like the examples in the sources.
Exactly. The college lifestyle, for instance. Lots of socializing, maybe late nights, partying, recreational drug use. These activities can, unfortunately, increase proximity to risky situations or people.
Right. Increases the odds of encountering someone looking for an opportunity.
Or, on a more serious level, think about a criminal lifestyle itself, like being involved in a gang. That life inherently means constant exposure to violence, retaliation, and motivated offenders. Victimization becomes almost an occupational hazard.
Okay, so lifestyle choices, increasing exposure. Then there's deviant place theory. How is that different?
Deviant place theory shifts the focus away from the person's actions or lifestyle.
And onto the location itself.
Precisely. It argues you become a victim simply because you live in or frequently pass through dangerous areas, high-crime neighborhoods.
So it doesn't matter how careful you are if the place itself is risky.
That's the core idea. These are often poor, densely populated areas, maybe with lots of people moving in and out, high transients, often places where residential buildings are right next to commercial ones. The risk is baked into the geography.
It feels like a lot of these theories overlap around the idea of being near danger.
They do, and that leads us to probably the most influential one today, routine activities theory.
Routine activities. Okay, what's the framework there?
It's quite elegant, really. It says crime happens when three things converge in time and space.
Three specific things.
Yes. First, you need suitable targets, people or property that are attractive to offenders.
Okay.
Second, you need the absence of capable guardians. This could be police, security guards, but also just ordinary people around, locks, alarms, anything that could deter the offender.
Got it. Targets and lack of protection. What's the third?
The presence of motivated offenders.
Yeah.
People who are willing and able to commit the crime. When those three things line up.
That's when crime is likely to happen.
Exactly. And that's why we talk about hotspots, right? Places where motivated offenders tend to hang out, where there are suitable targets, and maybe not enough guardianship. Risk goes way up.
Okay, so we have the costs, the patterns, these different theories trying to explain it. How has society, especially the legal system, responded to all this?
There's been a pretty significant shift over the last few decades, really focusing more on the victim. A key moment was back in 1982, President Reagan's task force on victims of crime.
What came out of that?
Some major recommendations, things like balancing victims' rights with the defendants' rights, pushing for restitution from offenders, and really expanding victim compensation programs. It set a new direction.
And that led to actual laws.
Yes. Pretty quickly, you saw the Omnibus Victim and Witness Protection Act. That brought in victim impact statements at the federal level, tougher bail rules, more focus on restitution.
Victim impact statements.
Yeah.
That's where the victim gets to speak in court, right?
Exactly, before sentencing. And then came the Victims of Crime Act of 1984, or VOCA. That was huge because it created a federal fund to help states pay for victim compensation and assistance programs.
So real money backing up the new focus.
Absolutely. Millions of dollars flowing to support victims.
And outside of those big laws, what about specific programs? I've heard of restorative justice.
Right, restorative justice aims to repair harm. One key example is victim offender reconciliation programs, or VORPS.
How do those work?
They typically involve a mediator bringing the victim and offender together if the victim consents, of course, for a face-to-face meeting. The goal is often understanding, accountability, and maybe agreeing on restitution.
Wow, that sounds intense.
Yeah.
But potentially powerful.
It can be. And alongside programs like that, you have the widespread adoption of the Victim's Bill of Rights. Every state has one now.
What rights are typically included?
They vary a bit, but common ones include the right to be notified about court proceedings, the right to be present, the right to be consulted before a case is dismissed or a plea bargain is offered.
And the right to restitution.
Yes, definitely the right to receive restitution from the offender. These rights really aim to give victims a formal place and voice within the justice process.
Okay, that covers the formal system.
Sure.
What about community efforts? Things like Neighborhood Watch.
Yeah, communities definitely try to organize block watches, neighborhood patrols, people trying to create that capable guardianship we talked about.
Do they work?
Well, here's where the sources offer a bit of a reality check. They indicate there's actually little strong evidence that these programs are broadly effective at reducing crime.
Really? Why not?
Especially in lower-income, high-crime areas, the places that arguably need them most, they often struggle to get established or sustained, or they don't significantly deter offenders already present.
That's disappointing. So community efforts might not be the silver bullet.
It seems not, at least not on their own in high-risk areas. Which leads back to individual actions, what the sources call self-protection.
Like locking your doors.
That's part of it, target hardening, better locks, security systems, being more aware of surroundings. But it also includes, in some situations, the act of directly fighting back against an attacker.
Right, taking an active role in your own safety.
Exactly.
Okay. This has been a really deep dive,
Wow.
True to the name. We've gone from the staggering scale, that 20 million number, through the huge costs, both economic and personal.
The PTSD, the cycle of violence.
Yeah, and into the patterns, who gets victimized, the gender paradox, social status links, repeat victimization.
And the theory's trying to make sense of it all. Precipitation, lifestyle, deviant place, routine activities.
It's a lot to take in, but understanding these patterns and theories, it moves us beyond just seeing victims as passive, unlucky individuals, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows victimization isn't random. It's patterned, influenced by environment, behavior, social structures. It gives us a framework, even if it's a complex one.
So for everyone listening, as you process all this, here's something to think about. We've discussed these four main theories: precipitation, lifestyle, deviant place, routine activities, which all, in different ways, analyze factors contributing to victim vulnerability.
Right. They focus on risk factors.
Okay, so how does our legal and social response with the Victim's Bill of Rights, compensation, impact statements, how does that framework balance acknowledging the vulnerabilities highlighted by those theories? while also ensuring the victim has agency, a voice, and rights within the justice system.
That's the tension, isn't it, between recognizing risk factors and empowering the individual?
Exactly. How do theory and policy intersect there? Something to consider as you think about safety, risk, and justice in the world around you.